Hi guys, it's Eric and Ellie again. I made a video yesterday. I was using some snap-on accessories with Hscope and it was working out really good. I had a little bit of problem with the timing on it, the cylinder identifiers, but using flags on Hscope, what I was doing, I'll include some of the video on that. It was I was getting 3 cylinders on one channel, half one bank of Nissan V6. I had the flags on that, and it was pretty easy to identify which cylinder. Just pick one up and you could tell right where you're at. So I'm playing around with it. It worked pretty good. I mean, the adapter is shameful. I have to go from the snap-ons. They use an RCA input. I'll show you in a second, but I don't know how the snap-on ignition scope works, but the signals I'm getting are pretty good. They have some adapters. I was going to try the timing again. The flags wouldn't fit down on this VTEC. This is a different Honda. The other one was a Nissan, and everything worked great. But whenever I put the cylinder identifiers on it, like the overlay of what cylinders what, as I go down the buffer, it kind of walks. I don't know if that's because of my accessories or if that's just inherent. You know what I mean? RPM changes, you know, the AC kicking on, something like that. It's close, but you'll see. But if you go further down the buffer, your cylinders are, the numbers are walking a little bit, but it's pretty neat. Could find a miss quick. But on another note, I got a Dodge Caravan recently. It needs a lot of work. It was a ministry vehicle, got like 175,000 miles. Going to be doing a lot on that, a lot of testing too, because I got a noise. I think it's a rocker arm, but anyways, the starter went on it. This is just some crap that you see. Let me flip this camera around. These are notoriously hard on the 4.0. You have to take the O2 sensor out, and it takes a good bit of finessing to get this up through the Y pipe. The 4.0s are, I mean, they're pretty crammed in there. But look at these zip ties. They were just hitting this starter, and if you jumped it with so much amperage, you had to jump it and put a jump box on it. That's why they were starting this. But somebody tried to take it off, and they broke it, wiggling it in, because you have to go, I mean, it's a snake to get it in. But, I mean, look at that repair. Then I just checked, it is an original Mopar starter, so it probably was a starter, it was on it. So, I tried to get it out, left one bolt out, one was half tight, and then, you know, that. So, that was the problem solved, but, I mean, it's just something crazy, the things you see. If this was a replacement starter, I mean, somebody would have broke a new starter and put that on there, and meanwhile, you think you got a new part, and that, you know, that's what your mechanic did to you. Happens a lot, man. You guys know, you work on this stuff. Find a lot of rig stuff. Yeah. On the other note, these were the flags I was using. These are snap-on flags. These are pickups. I have one similar to this on the Honda right now, and I was talking Chris Ingram on Telegram. He has an app that you could overlay all 4 cylinders and like compare them to each other. So I'm going to take a couple captures, really good images with it. I'm going to do a couple just on the oscilloscope. I'll show you it running. Then I'll save some on automotive module, so I have a nice long. Then I'll give her some gas on one of them. You know, nothing wrong with the car, just playing with some toys. All right, guys, let me flip this around again, and I'll show you a Hscope. What's up? I'm not the best video editor in the world, but what I was doing is this is 2 videos, so you kind of get 2 introductions, but each one explains a little something. But I was putting both together. I wanted to try these snap-on accessories on 2 different cars just to see if I could get the cylinder time, and I'm perfectly happy with everything else. So next you're going to see actually the video I made before that, and then we're going to go back to the Honda. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm happy it worked out like that. All right. Just felt that needed a little bit of explanation. Hi, guys. Eric and Ellie again. Today I just changed tranny fluid and differential grease in one of my buddy's cars, Corey. It's an old Pathfinder. You know, we just keep it running, got like 250,000 miles, but that's beside the point. But I figured while I have his car in here, he was going to be back in like an hour to pick it up. But I had an idea yesterday while I was up here, and I figured, you know, better to give it a shot on than a Nissan with like 200 and some thousand miles. But for those of you familiar with like a Snap-on platform, they use the flags for their ignition on the older Moduses. I don't know if they still use them. I've seen different kinds. They got bars, they got everything. But in the trade I got for a Modus, it came with the whole accessory kit that it came with in like 2008. So it has all the ignition parts, and it has 8 flags. And what they are is just a simple, it's just a flag that you put on top of a coilover plug. There's a couple different adapters for specific, no, let me say it again. There's a couple different adapters for specific coils. And I do have a couple of them. It seems like, you know, there's about 30 for just about any car you can imagine. But with the idea with the flags is you take a string of them like this. This is 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. And you could pick up all 3 cylinders at once, or you could add a 1 flag, plug it together, then you could get an inline 4 all on one channel, all 4 ignition events. Or, well, I mean, I guess if you did have VW and inline 5, you could just add 1 more and you'll have a 5-cylinder. I have 3 of these on the Nissan right now, so there's 3 gone. And what you do if you had a V8, you'd take this, and then I'll show you the wire whenever I turn the camera around, and then you plug it in again. So you could have all 8 ignition events, like in almost like a parade format, and you could tell what's happening. And then I didn't know if this was going to work or not, plugging it in the Hscope. These use a different kind of, they use like an RCA jack. I didn't have one of them, and that's what goes into the Snap-on Modus. But what I did have, being the Modus uses banana jacks, I got from whenever I ordered the HS512 from Martin Lauren, I ordered like every kind of gadget I thought I was going to need. I just got banana jack extenders that you plug into both the male side of a banana jack to plug them in. So, I mean, this is kind of a long story, but I ordered the wrong leads to be able to hook BNC connections into the Modus, but they're the reverse of what I needed. But in this case, I could use the banana jacks from the Modus leads, the ignition leads, plug them into the BNC, and then get it like backwards than what I was intending to do. What I wanted to do was use BNC amp clamps and paddle probes on the Modus. So I had to go from banana jack to BNC, and a male BNC goes around its opposite. It goes around the female. So I ordered the wrong ones, had them sitting in a drawer, thought of this idea, figured I got to have some kind of cord. If not, I'll make one. But I'm probably going to have to make one because it did work. But as soon as I seen a pattern on there, that's where I stopped. The one thing I would like to do, because you could do something else. I mean, you could probe an ejector and identify what cylinder you're on. But I'm seeing of simply just picking up one of the paddles, because what I put them on with, just Gorilla Tape. You know, double-sided tape. This is a little bit too good, too sticky to get them on, but it's holding them on good. But, you know, if you ever use this stuff, you know it's hard even getting the plastic off of it. I'm sure, you know, cheaper double-sided tape will work. But, yeah, I got a pattern on the scope with it, so I stopped right there. I was only on the ignition module, or on the oscilloscope, and then I'm going to try it in automotive module, see what we see. I mean, these things, I think Snap-on still sells them. They're expensive, and they would be useless for this, but it does leave you some ideas if you're the curious one that likes building things. I mean, I've seen that this has probably already been done, actually. You know, I mean, on the Hscope group, I didn't even, it was such a spur of the moment. I didn't even ask for any input. I'm sure somebody's already did this, because technically you could build your own paddle probe. You could wire 6 pennies, you know, in series, and put them on a 6-cylinder 8. I mean, I just insulate your wires, but, you know, make sure you do something like that. But on these probes, what's neat about them too is I'm getting a hell of a signal, which is good. That's something you want. But on one side, you put it on to amplify the signal, and on one side, it'll reduce it. I could have used the reducers on this. This is just a rough go. I mean, nothing wrong with the car either. I'm, you know, other than 200-some thousand miles, but other than that, you know, it's all working good, so we're not looking for a problem. It's just cool if we were. Being able to get, you know, all 6 cylinders on one channel Hscope, identify which cylinder you're after, then, I mean, you could go after something else with the other channel and, you know, have every cylinder's ignition. Now, these don't work on all coil over plug. Some got really good insulation. Lucky for us, it's Nissan don't. I'm going to flip the camera around and I'll show you what I got. Okay guys, this is just a better look at the flags in case you aren't familiar with these. Rotke makes some that are on a cable that have a smaller, you know, pod, and you put them on the same way with double-sided tape. But with these, you have 3 on each side. I have one of these on the car. Then you could put this on for an inline 4. If you have a VW inline 5, you could just add 1 more. Or if you have a V6, you use 2 of the 3. You get it. And if you have a V8, you just add the other 2. And I kind of did it backwards because I thought this lead was going to the scope. This lead actually would go to the other bank. If I could get to him easy, and if Corey wasn't on the way to pick up his car here, I'd run these 3 too, so we could get all 6 on one channel. I did notice this is probably from my bore scope, but just a rubber end I put over the RCA jack just so it don't pick up any interference. It's only rubber, so I doubt it's gonna do much. But I have 3 of them taped down to each coil, or one on each coil, and then in the back's where I plugged in, and it might not be the best ground, but it was convenient right on top of the throttle body. And then whenever I ran this cable back, this is the snap-on lead that goes into banana jacks. And I had these adapters from Martin Loren I got just to extend the banana jack. And this is the lead that I purchased in air, because BNC, I thought the bigger one that goes over like this was the female, and this was the male, but it's the inside. This is the female, and this is the male. So the cables ended up working for something anyways. Now that I know I do get a pattern, I could cut out, you know, the extensions and just make an RCA to BNC. And then hopefully I'll still get the same kind of patterns, but this is the images I got. I would put it on the screen recorder to reduce the glare, but the tablet's in the case and the sound's very muffled. You don't need to hear me ramble anyways, but I'm going to put it on a tripod. And then this would be we're in scope mode. So when I start it, we should get some kind of pattern like that. I mean, it was, I was pretty impressed with it for, you know, first shot right off the bat. That's why I figured I'll get out there, let you guys take a look at it, because you can make these too. I mean, you just put your sensor, I mean, you use whatever. I've seen a bunch of different ways to make your own paddle probe, but if you wire that many cylinders in a row and, you know, just stick them to the top and let her run. Okay guys, there it is running. That's just on the oscilloscope mode. Now we can't tell which 3 cylinders or which cylinder's which yet. I did have it on the HT25, but actually, you know, just going on an 8.1 volt scale and just a ×1, it's actually a better pattern. But now we could set the trigger on this mode, normalizing trigger, just try to catch the top of the ignition. So that would be normalizing. That would be all 3 of them just changing. It's going to be going where the coil collapses here, the higher kV. Now if you were checking kV, you could actually use the HT25, and I'm not sure how accurate it would be on the kilovolt side, but you could get a really good normalized waveform like that. It's not moving around. It's hitting the max a little bit, not all the time. That's all right. We'll go up to 16. No, it's not hitting at all. And that's just on scope mode. That's a really nice stable waveform. I know. I'm really digging that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to automotive mode. I'm going to hit record. And I'm on 300 kilosnippets a second, 10 milliseconds. Put a lot more time on there. We'll go up to second on it. See if we get anything. Oh, I'm sorry. Filling up that buffer, we could go for 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So if you were looking for a miss on this bank, now when I stop it, now, if we were looking for something like this cylinder doing that consistently, the last thing I want to try to do is try to pick up one of them paddles and then look back and see if we could find which one I picked up, if there's a gap there or if it just automatically starts displaying 2 cylinders. Something we could trigger off of without having to do another sync, or not trigger off of a sync without really much setup other than picking one of the flags up. Is it possible? That's pretty nice. I mean, I like that. No. We're going to just save that real quick. And I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to pick up one of the paddles. And if anything, I think we should be able to see where I picked it up, even if it compensates and starts only showing, you know, like there's none missing, even though we know there will be one. Okay, it's recording. Now I'm going to pick one up. Okay, that one's the whole way off. Sticking it back on. Okay, now I'm going to stop it. We're going to shut this car off too, so it don't keep gassing me out. All right. Oh, you know what I could have did too? I also have, wow. I have the ring from Martin Lauren, or you could actually, I believe it's the volume down button. You could set a flag just by hitting the Bluetooth ring. You could use Bluetooth headphones too, and I believe it is volume down. If you use it, it'll drop a flag. I never have used it yet, but I mean, that would have been the perfect time. Let me shrink this down, see if we could see where it happened. Right here would be that cylinder, because we have this oscillation that was always there, and then there should have been a secondary ignition right here. That was still picking up some of it because it was in my hand. And I was pretty close to, you know, all the interference. Now, can we pick up? I know we could pick up exactly one, but see, here's not. Here it's still off. And here it looks like I was partly off. That's probably when I was pulling it off. Well, maybe there also, but, and then we're back to 3 strong ones. So yeah, we could easily identify that cylinder right there is on this Nissan. I believe that would be number 4, but I could be wrong. I didn't look up the firing order. Then you could go, I'm not sure if it lets you. I mean, there are a lot of 3 cylinders out there, so if you really wanted to, I mean, if you were just working on this one bank, you could take number 4 off. tell Hscope that you're working on a 3-cylinder, and then identify this one as 1, and then you'd have 2, 3, and then you'd want to move 1 to this event. So then you'd know which cylinder's which. If you've seen something you didn't like, you'd be able to quickly get back to it. Actually, I think I put number 1 on the wrong one, but you get the idea with that. If this was the one we wanted, we'll put number 1 there, and then we'd say 1, 2, 3, and then 1. That would be the next one right here. That would be when I pulled it off. So as we move down to where it is the whole way off, we could see number 1 missing. So that's pretty cool. Pretty neat little experiment. I'm pretty happy with it. And, actually a little bit, surprised. It's better than I imagined it was going to be, like, working like that. So I didn't know if going to a different platform or what this went into on the Modus, if it gave it some kind of amplifier, some kind of buffer, anything like that. But we're going straight in Hscope on 1-volt scale and not even worrying about setting up presets. Now, if you were going to do some measurements, you'd want to know. You know what I mean? You'd want to know what these KV spikes are. But on this, you could still measure burn time. You could still see if you have a miss. You could still see if it's lean. You could still see if it's firing period. You could still see if it's being pulled to ground. You're not going to be able to measure KV until, I look at the snap-on literature or anything like that and see what, what the increments are and what the scale is. Then make a probe or set up a custom probe in Hscope. Hey guys, this is how I started out on this. I mean, the VTEC, these coils, they sit down a little bit. But what you do is just like the rock keys, you put a piece of double-sided tape on top of the coil, and then you attach a flag. Well, I can't get the flags down there, so what I did was just touch them like that. And then I'll share with you the waveform it got. There was a little bit of noise in it, but it did pick up all the cylinders. I was doing that mainly getting all 4 on one channel. Then I was trying to time them with the cylinder again, like, the cylinder identifiers, and it was walking too. So it might just be inherent to these flags. But it would still be nice if you had 4 missing. I mean, you could tell which one it is. Just pick up the flag and the waveform, it disappears. Just, the Rocky ones are a little bit more compact. And what's kind of odd about these is the RCA jack. When you take this, here, let me take this off. I'll show you a close up of the one I have on there. This is the clamp. Hondas they're pretty hard sometimes to get a good signal off of. You guys are really into electronics, you know what this stuff is. I'm not sure, but it's picking these coils up really good. And with a paddle probe, they're hard to get at, and you don't get a really good waveform. And this thing's working pretty good. It's going into, I got it grounded to the strut tower. But see, that's just an RCA jack. And these, you set the flag down. No tape with these. The tape's just for if you're doing the whole bank. But this is the part here. I'm going to have to make a cord, because the snap-on cord, these are the adapters I got that go into this adapter, which goes into BNC. So the snap-on goes from RCA to banana jack to BNC to Hscope to waveform. And it's working pretty good. So I figure this is a good opportunity. Now I got my screen on white with a purple, line, and I keep it pretty thick whenever I'm lining up the cylinders or anything like that. And then you could go in, you could change the color. White picks up pretty easy. I'll change it almost every time. Why not? But if you wanted to change the color, I have it on white. You could put it on your, traditional. We'll put black. Then I'll change my line to skinnier. And this is what you'd be seeing with that. And that's a pretty good. This is just scope mode. So that's why I put them a little bit thicker. I mean, we could turn this white again, but it's a pretty good waveform on a Honda too. I mean, sure if you guys watch Scanner Danner, you hear a lot about the Hondas and, you know, how it's hard to pick it up sometimes, you know, and there's different kinds. This might be a little bit older, but there's some insulated that almost nothing will get you secondary waveform over coil over plug. But this one luckily did. I'm going to fire it up. I'm going to switch it from cylinder to cylinder, and I'll show you it running. I mean, it's a really good waveform. Okay guys, I got it running, and I mean, this is just oscilloscope mode, and I just got the trigger set enough to where you're getting every waveform. If you set it too high, you're going to miss a couple. So I set it down, you know, where I'm picking up every wave, but it's not triggering off the actual burn line. A screen recorder, like I say, it might be a good option to use for this, but then trying to talk over the engine and the exhaust fan, it's a little bit rough. But I mean, you can see those are very good waveforms. I mean, come on guys, this is a $95 scope. That little thing's getting an image like that. And I'm pretty happy with it. If I was looking for a miss or something, I'm sure this is going to pick up. Now, I haven't further played along. I don't know what the actual scaling would be. Like if we were trying to get KV off of this, I'd have to do some research into the snap-on, you know, exactly what it is and make a custom probe. But right now I just got it on a 3.3 volt scale and just a one-time probe. The filter, the only thing I have on is invert. Low pass and everything, that really don't work too good on secondary, but it does seem to work good on amperage. So I mean, this just as is, we could see this burn line, we could measure this burn line, we could do, you know, whatever we wanted to do there. And with the flags, like I was explaining, I was getting all 4 cylinders at once. I was getting some noise, but you could see the patterns all in one channel. It's pretty cool, but this is definitely a better image on this one. Now what I'm going to do is just move it from cylinder to cylinder and get a good image, just something we could see on here. That resolution seems to be pretty good. I only got on 75. Let's see what 150 does. Where's my trigger? Oh, that's my channel. Okay, I want a normal trigger. Okay, I'm gonna move until I find it. Okay, that's even more resolution there, so I'm gonna keep it right there because that's pretty good. And this thing's getting really good images, almost like you're on a Pico. I've never used the Pico, but show me it does better than that. I mean, I know it does more things, but now, this one, I'm going to set this on the single trigger. Now it's not going to, there we are there. Let me just get it to where, actually if I pause it, I could just take it with, oh, it came off the single. Okay, for some reason it won't go to single trigger. It did before. Not really worried about that because in normal I could still get a waveform and pause it. And pause it right there, and then as soon as I got it, I'm going to save it. Going to rename it also. I'm going to just call them 1, 2, 3, 4. I have one named 1 already, so I'm going to just call this one 1A, and we got it. Now I'm going to move on to the next cylinder. I'm going to hit play, but I'm going to move it. I'm sorry, kick the tripod. See this one, it's hitting the bolt of the coil just a tiny bit, so it's not laying flat. There we go. I maneuvered it a little bit and got it down like that. That's a lot better. We were getting a lot of noise in here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to save this in as number 2. I'm not sure if that's the firing order of this Honda. We're not investigating a problem, so I'm not really, you know, trying to identify which firing order. I'm just identifying the cylinders right now. That could be looked up later. Okay, I'm going to move it on to the 3rd cylinder. Okay, that's the 3rd cylinder there. Get a little bit of noise there. It's real noisy there, but you move that trigger up for certain. You know, I did change my setting there, but hopefully it could be manipulated after the fact. I was trying to get all 3 of them without touching anything, but that wave moved a little bit on me. So I'm going to pause this one again. We'll get a little bit more traditional part of it there. Oh, don't want that. I want to save this one as number 3. Now we'll move on number 4. Okay, number 4 is a real peach, but let's stop that. Yeah, we'll get a better looking one. Okay, that one will do. Let's save this as number 4. Okay, now I'm going to move on to automotive. Keeping the settings the same here. Now I do have the cylinder overlays on for some reasons. Okay, they went away. Okay, I'm going to start. See down here the buffer's filling up. If I had the line thicker, you'd actually see it in the buffer. I know it's hard to see down there, but I could see the pink line moving up and down. I'm going to give it a little bit of rev. You could go 6 minutes and 24 seconds at this resolution. So I'm going to rev it. Also, I don't believe it's paired, but I'd like to try. I might not be able to get it to work this time, but it's the Bluetooth trigger from Martin Moran for the Hscope. If you hit this, it should leave a flag. But actually, I don't think it's synced anymore. If you have Bluetooth headphones or something, you could just hit volume down, I believe, and you got a flag. Okay, not paired. I'm going to just go for the rev. Whenever you do these, snap it like it's a rental, because you're actually doing the customer a favor, hitting it that hard. You know, some of these engines ain't got 210,000 miles on it. You don't want to rev it too hard, but you're not really going to get, if this has a problem that only happens under load, you're going to miss it. So foot to the floor as hard as you can. We're going to save this one as, we're going to just call this one running. And what's interesting, I just want to see what the snap looked like. Saving the file. I don't know if these files, in automotive mode, these will be able to be captured and loaded in Chris's program, or if the oscilloscope, the single one, will work. But hopefully one will. We're getting both. What I want to see is when we got on it, what happened. But so I'll show you. I like the line a little bit thicker. If you're going for absolute accuracy, sometimes you like just to see that line like a hair. But you know, to show you on the screen like this, I think bigger's better. I'm a little bit darker. I'm going to spread out the time a little bit. Now, that's a pretty big waveform on your tablet there. And what you could do, well, actually I should have kept that down until we found the rev, but I'll just zoom it in to show you how clear some of it is. It's a single cylinder, but you can move it to all four. If you're looking for a miss and you get any kind of direction, or hey, if you got to check them all you're doing is comparing at this point. Now we see down here should be the snaps. Look at them. I mean, that's breaking up. You could hear this car doesn't, wow. Doesn't idle real smooth, and the way the exhaust sounds, I mean, it's begging for my pulse sensor, but I got to put ball joints on this car. They flagged them for inspection. I checked them. Yeah, I checked it over before we went for inspection, and they seem pretty good to me, but it's a strut system. I think they maybe put some weight on the control arm and checked them unloaded, but either way, the boots are dry rotted. But anytime you get a car like this is non-invasive. You want to do charging tests, you want to do a compression test. I mean, somebody here for ball joints snapping his car, I'd hate to tell him I threw the rod bearing, but I mean, use your common sense, use your ears. If it's making noise, don't snap it. But a lot of this that on a hard snap, you could hear how hard I snapped it, but we see it's still fired. I mean, that's either turbulence, but it doesn't look like a misfire because it got a burn line. Just wasn't too happy. Shrink these down a little bit more. And you can see the hash in there. That might actually be better going back to a smaller DPI or DP. See, there we go. And if you're trying to look to see if that was a miss or just noise. But everything else seems to work. It goes right, it fires. We do have a burn line, and then we do have oscillations at the end. I mean, really hard to tell, but under a hard snap there is going to be a lot of hash in there, and it sounds like it revved pretty good. I mean, they're not dead misses, so that's all just noise. This one, I mean, if you're looking at that, let me spread out a little bit. And either my pickup's breaking up some. But yeah, that don't look too good. See, I mean, it's saying pulse sensor. Depends when Jim needs his car back. That would have been under snap down. That would have been nice if I had this ring hooked up, because all you do, it's set up to prepare for recording. So I think it is synced now. Whenever it runs, whenever you hit this, it'll drop a flag. So you can just keep it on your finger, keep it anywhere, and just tap the button, and you'll set a flag off. But that's while it's recording. So that'd be nice whenever you're in the car. You could hit this button and there'll be a flag right when you do your rev. If you're holding it to 2 grand, you'll see the flag. If you're doing a relative compression test, because I know, guys, you watch these videos, you watch everything. Some people do a compression test with the foot to the floor, you know, naturally, for if you're using clear flood mode. But even on an older vehicle, and some people say no, leave it there, let it suck the air with the throttle closed. You know, do both. I do both. I do it straight up, and then I do it with the foot to the floor. But it would be nice if you could just hit this button and sync it. I've had this for a while and I never used it. It's, you know, my own stupid fault. Wow, volcanoes are still erupting on the moon. Okay. But we do have did pick up good waveforms, so I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it's, you know, this is just more tinkering, but it's pretty cool. Hscope does that. I wasn't sure if the snap-on leads, because these go into the, I got the light off so we could see good, but they go into motors. That's why they use banana jacks. And maybe, well, I got this here all set up like that. I may as well just plug the motors in, see if we get any better of an image. But I mean, right there with Hscope, you could have taken this out of your pocket, a couple adapters, you know, get wrenching, or don't get wrenching. That's the whole idea. Don't unbolt anything you don't have to. Use this scope to find right where you're going. Don't guess. All right, this is what I had to do to get them to work with the Hscope. Here's a little closer look of it. Now with the snap-on, all I do is put these into the channels. Okay, motor's fired up and ready to work. I still didn't investigate why the VGA output quit working whenever the fuse fell out, but you know, hey, the screen's brighter now, so I'm a little bit happier. But you know, this is a different system. As far as scopes go, if you need 2 channels, Hscope seems to be, I mean, it's even quicker. I thought the Hscope was fast, but Hscope's just as fast, and you got the 2 channels, big buffer. You know, it's the way to go. But this one has guided component tests, so if you're working on a specific vehicle, you know, it sets up the scope for you. So I mean, that's a little bit, if you can't find it with Hscope quick, you might have to bust this out. That's the way I look at it. But usually for speed, I'm using Hscope. Alright guys, that's the motors hooked up to it, the same probe. I just put them up in banana jacks. But it do get a pretty good waveform on it. You know, in my case, the battery's no good. I have to get a new battery or rebuild this battery pack. So this is more, stays on the cart. So it is portable, but Hscope I could use with my phone, very portable. So, you know, I prefer this one if I need to guided test. It has a couple cool functions. I mean, it even has electricity classes. And pretty cool scope if you ever found one of these used cheap. Find pretty good waves. I mean, you could definitely find a miss on that. You could take your time down. You could record all that. Now the thing is, whenever you want to put the least amount, what I'm figuring out with this scope, you want to put, let me see here. Go to 20 milliseconds, see what that looks like. Okay, we see one good one there. This is what you want to record at whenever the image is big, because whenever you could only zoom out, you can't zoom in, or I can't figure out how to zoom in. But I'm going to snap it once, and then we're going to, you know, see what that looks like. Save it, and then call it a wrap. Now you do got to pause this when you're done, or you won't have anything to look at. Should be able to move back to where we had some kind of signal. Well, removing the screen. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Keep hitting this tripod, but it's all right. Just keep moving. I'm not seeing anything. When we were watching it running live, maybe I didn't record this right. Should have been in the buffer up top. It's playing the buffer. Okay, it's on a very short buffer. It probably, by the time I saved it, all I had is whenever the car was shut off. So we're gonna have, because you could see how fast the arrow's moving. So what we're gonna do is go back. I'm gonna run it again. This thing really sounds like I should do an RC test on it, but you know, it's here for ball joints. Okay, we're going to just go, we'll try parade. It's only one cylinder. Usually you do this with more, but it's just showing you the same cylinder over and over. But I want to see how quick. See, the buffer's moving very slow now up top. That's what we want, because after I rev it, I could come back and pause it. Okay, we're going to pause that. Don't want to rev it too much, because like I said, 200 some thousand miles. Okay, now we have this saved in our buffer. We could go back and look at every firing event on that cylinder, and you could keep moving that probe. It is nice. Let me shut the light off, give you a little bit better view. See, this is all in the buffer. We could review this anytime we want. And see, that's how you want to record it. From what I'm figuring out on my own here is you want to record it slow like this, and then whenever you come out, you could go to the zoom, or no, that's actually the lines. But no. You could just play it. This is in the buffer. I'm going to shut the car off. Okay, there was a zoom function that oh, we're back to there. I didn't even save that, but I wasn't going to anyways. But you see the, because that'll be going out of the buffer now. If you want to save them, you have to go over here and save it up there. But that was just a comparison between the two. It's a pretty good video. I mean, I could have recorded it, but I could have just watched that. We did miss a snap, though. That's kind of disappointing. But so, of course, I'm going to do it again. We're going to do it in parade format again, just because we get a lot on there. Okay, I'm going to run it and give it a quick snap. Okay, making sure I got a image. Alright, gave her one snap. This Honda's hot, and again, 210,000 miles. Okay, first I will save this just for save as a movie. Okay, now we could review a little bit. There was a zoom where you could zoom out, but you can't zoom in. Now this is just reviewing that, but if you recorded it what you want, you're always going to be good. This would have been going into the snap, I imagine. Look at them. I mean, that's what they're supposed to look like under a snap. And there's a lot of turbulence in there. That's how they look whenever you give it some gas like that real fast. They'll break up a little bit. But we see they're firing. I mean, that time looks a little bit suspicious, but all right, guys, I'm going to shut that down. But compare. Let me get it back on Hscope up there. Okay. Bear with me a second, guys. I'm reaching over everything, trying to get it back up on Hscope. And there we go. I mean, you be the judge. I mean, there's a big price difference. And Hscope comes through. Hasn't let me down yet. Yeah, the old Honda looks pretty cool under with no light on. But, you know, simply either scope. I mean, I didn't have to take anything off that cart. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't like putting stuff under the hood. I mean, it's bad enough I have to watch my hair and beard around belts. I don't have to want to be watching a, you know, snap-on scope. My leads all tangled up. I like them laid across like that, and I like them on that side cart. I mean, it works out pretty good for me, and these carts are pretty cheap. You watch out on Harbor Freight. I mean, I got two of these things over the years, and you know, I got one big one over there, and they quit making the bottom for it. So, you know, it's a pretty neat diag cart. If you keep all your diag stuff in it, all your leads, everything like that, you know, keep them away from the other tools. And then you can get on things faster. You know where everything is. You're not digging through sockets to find probes. Stay organized, guys. All right, guys, that was just a little bit of, you know, having fun with some different parts. I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that people ask me about Hscope. Somebody asked, is there a user manual, or is there a website where you could go and, like, you know, look up different things, like, you know, how to use it more like how you'd get a snap-on or something that comes with a manual? There is none. I mean, all the scope does is measure voltage and time. That's it. You know, there's no magic to it. There's accessories, like these are snap-on accessories. Hscope ran them fine. I use Handtech paddle probes, runs it fine. Yeah, rod key pulse sensor, runs it fine. I mean, pressure transducer, it's a Chinese one I got all rigged up, but I can't even remember the name of it, but it works fine. I mean, all it does is measure voltage and time. This one does it really good. It got a really good buffer. I like it. I wish I found it earlier. I got a Handtech, a 1008C 8 channel. Everybody makes that mistake, man. You're watching Scanner Danner. He's using 2 channels. He's using 4 channels, and you see an 8 that cheap. You're like, I'm on it, man. And you could have fun with it. You know, you could also hook it up to Hscope and use a software like that you're pinching the zoom. You know, you're always doing this. I like that. You know, I like that better than the thumb button scrolling through menus. It's a waveforms too small bone pinch, just like you do on your phone every day. That's what you're doing. You're getting real. I mean, I think, hey, look, if you turn the screen white and you change looks like a Pico, don't it? I mean, and the sample rate's pretty good. It's good enough for, like me, I work on my friends' cars in the alley. There's enough here for me, you know, to work for the rest of my life pulling something in, you know, doing this, doing that. They're all used cars, high mileage, ministry, neighbors, whatever. We have a plenty supply, you know, cars to do. And I work slow. You just take your time, you plug in. There's people on the Hscope group. I mean, there's the designer of the Hscope group. He'll answer questions. He's not a mechanic, but he understands voltage and time. If you have a question, the Hscope Telegram group, you will get an answer. I mean, don't be afraid that there's no manual, there's no how to do this. Just get it and start testing. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I know I did, but now I got to beat in some ball joints. All right, adios. One thing also, guys, I was going to make a video first doing it on the Nissan when I was using the flags. I'm going to include part of that, and I'm not going to include the audio like what I was doing. If anybody knows why my cylinders don't line up further down the buffer, is that because they're the flags, or is that just something that's going to inherently happen? Am I doing it wrong? What I'm doing is lining up cylinder 1 and then setting cylinder 1 again after cylinder 4, and then lining up perfect. But as I move down the buffer, you'll see my cylinder identifiers move. Is that normal? Is there a way around it? Or is that just the fault of the snap-on probes? I know I could get some information doing things that way, but if I was going to identify them cylinders, they're close, but they do walk. You could still tell which cylinder's which. But if anybody knows that, just share the knowledge. That's what it's all about. We're using a low budget platform, so the biggest resource is each other. If I'm doing something wrong and you know how to do it, you tell me. You know, it's, you know, that's how we learn. You know, we all watch Scanner Danner. We all watched, you know, Darren, the mechanic mindset. We all watched Eric O. We all watch Eric, the car guy. We just don't have that budget. You know, some of you might, but I mean, even if I had the money, Hscope would be in my box. All right, guys, that's it for good. Adios. It's been a long time since I worked on points, but you guys are going to be seeing a lot of this if you stick around. This is my buddy Mike. He just bought this, him and his wife. It's a 68 Super Beetle. Pretty clean car, but didn't quite make it home.